Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time, a Wave Sports and Entertainment original presented by Prize Picks. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. By the way, check out our YouTube channel for The Right Time. Got a lot of cool exclusive web-only content or YouTube-only content. We got a Tuesday series that we're putting out. We're starting to put out some concert reviews, so check that stuff out. Anyway, it's that time of week. We have a guest join us coming to us live from scenic Bristol, Connecticut. Check her out on Sports Center and many other places. Elle, Duncan, what's going on?
What's up, Bo?
I saw you had a little bankhead bouncer going. That's like you was taking it back.
Right.
And we talked about the bankhead bounce is the greatest dance anybody ever came up with because even I can do it. Like it allowed for a level of difficulty where the truly excellent could do some amazing things, but even somebody like me could, I can give you a little something here.
Bo, you know what it is? The bankhead bounce is the pickleball of dances. Literally everyone can participate and it makes you look more athletic than you actually probably are, but it's so easy. And you can chair dance with it. And you're right. If you want to get arms with it, that's fine, or legs with it. But yeah, man, it's just,
Yes.
you can even just drop the hands and just do shoulder,
And the thing is, if you can't really dance, though, nothing feel better than realizing you actually getting it done. Like hitting that pocket on the bankhead bounce, have you like, oh, okay. And, like the little snap era that people had, that allowed for great flexibility also for skill levels, that allowed for supremely advanced people. But if all you can really do is count to 3, had a little something there for you too.
100%. All you had to do is just sit with it, Dun, dun,
Yes.
dun. I mean, it's like 1, 2, 3 dance. They map it out for you.
Yes. I will say
I'm
this,
playing
though.
Laffy Taffy in my head as I do this, by the way.
I was there too. Rest in peace, Shotty Love. I went back to Atlanta in 2005 for something. I had to go to Morehouse's homecoming, and I just hadn't been in town for a little while in one of those settings. And the snap thing had arrived, but nobody had told me. And so this next thing I know, I look around, and I'm 25 years old, but it is a gym full of people doing all kinds of snapping. And I was just like, hey, guys, what are you children up to that clearly nobody has let me know? Like it hadn't got out of Atlanta yet. It was still just right there.
Yeah. People hated it too. I was doing like radio in Atlanta firmly when Snap came about. And at the time there was so much like, this isn't real Atlanta hip hop. This is trash. It's too easy. It's,
Right.
Rhyme by numbers. But it was, it was a very approachable style to rap, right? There was no substance, but you could just sort of, "Oh, shake that." It was just like very easy to sort of remember. And it was a vibe. I think we'll look kinder on Snap music years from now than we did at the time.
Well, like the beats just felt a little lazy, right? Like it did not
Sure.
feel like it was necessarily a high talent level of music. But I will say, after the years old crunk, which were really, really aggressive and quite honestly chancing the fates in a way that even knowing better, we still engaged in the great possibility of, God forbid, not just stepping on somebody's shoe, stepping on their shoe and accidentally elbowing them in the chin. Like that was always a possibility. A little
Yes.
Laffy Taffy was probably what the people needed to kind of like decompress.
100%. When I was working clubs at the time, like we would definitely feel the crowd out before we would play like Bone Crusher. Because if you played Bone Crusher, you could start a riot. There was potential. You never had to worry or wonder with Snap music because everyone was just going to catch a good vibe.
That was it. The ladies enjoyed it. Like it worked. It all worked out well.
Yes.
By the way, I forgot. People have been asking me if you could get me back on the Falcons narcotic, but they don't fully recognize that's not your bag. But are you falling for this
I was
Bo Nix
literally
thing?
going to offer you a hit. Did you want a little hit?
Nah,
They beat Tampa. They beat Tampa. You want a little Kirk Cousins with one of those vintage Matt Ryan comebacks? Here, Bo, you want a little touch?
I feel like everybody should know by now that I'm just far too resolute to go for something like that, right? And like what I don't understand is this, man. Why would you want to offer me dope? Right? Like I am standing tall. I'm a better person for it. You see, I done cleaned up my life and all these bad influences out here. Not even other fiends. You know what I'm saying? Not even other fiends. People are going to buy rock to give to somebody that's sober. And I just don't
Yeah.
know like what your life is like where you feel like that's
Yeah.
something because of Kirk Cousins. That's the part that gets me. You sure you don't want to get back on the narcotic? They got Kirk Cousins. That's your pitch. That's your sell. They're 3-2.
Yeah, but everybody's surviving and existing in the. But they could be 4-1 if they had just beat the Chiefs, but they didn't. But they didn't.
They Kirk one-legged Kirk Cousins, right?
Yeah.
One-legged Kirk Cousins. But I will tell you this: between that little show on Netflix and this thing in Atlanta, it has made Kirk Cousins so much more likable to everybody else in the world because I think being in Atlanta has put him fully in touch with how far away from cool he truly was. Like,
Yeah.
he never was a dude that thought he was cool, but I don't
No.
think he fully realized how. And look, I don't know if he spent any time in Atlanta other than when he go to that stadium, right? Like, the Falcons stuff is not in what either one of us would actually term as being Atlanta. He could beat
Not
Kirk
even close.
Cousins and not notice any of this stuff. But if he stop and get some gas over there by the dome, oh, baby, you gonna learn. It's a little different down here.
Really quickly, they don't care if you're Kirk O'Bangs at all around there, or what used to be Turner Field, which is now turned into Gentrification USA. But yeah, I mean, listen, I appreciate that Kirk leans in, and that he sort of, we saw it with the swag surf that was all up here. I appreciate that he learns in. I do wonder a little bit, not to like spoil the fun, if it's like borderline, trafficking and stereotypical sort of cosplaying behavior,
It is.
right? Like,
It
I'm
is.
gonna embrace
It is.
Atlanta by wearing like chains and swag. So, it's like, dude, like you're a
But
guy that like gets hyped to good Charlotte, and that's okay. Be that
Right.
guy.
But to be fair to him, they giving him the chains. They telling
Fair.
him to swag surf. He don't know the difference. Everybody else thinks it's cool. Like, they treating him almost like he a baby. You know what I'm saying? Like, dress him up however you want, right? And then just take the pictures, and it'll be hilarious. Everybody else is just like, hey, Kirk, we gonna turn you into a just add water shawty right there. And he don't know. He has no idea. Not one of the people have been like, hey, Kirk, you want to go down to the King Center? No. Ain't none of them doing that. They gonna try to take him to the Trap Music Museum. You know what I'm saying? Like, I bet he gone to the world of Coca-Cola all by himself. I don't think he needed somebody to like guide him into that one. But they ain't taking him. Like, I don't blame him at all. I'm looking at me and mine, and I'm asking them why this is the approach they choosing to take.
Do you want to go to the King Center? I would love that. Someone get this man to the King Center. Get him to Walter. Something that is a
Yeah.
little bit more emblematic of our culture. And like, I get it too. I play into the like, oh, the Falcons won. They're all going to be at Magic City, like lemon pepper wings free throughout the city. But there is a little bit more to the city than that. But again, I think it's fun that at the very least he's fine sort of being that goofy, like, I'm the white guy who's swag surfing. And it seems to have endeared him to the city and endeared himself to the team. So I guess it works.
You ever been to the King Center with white people before?
Yes.
I worked a job
Yeah.
once where they had been in some legal trouble over some of their practices at the office, which then made it such that when people would come visit, that they perhaps would need to take a trip through the King Center. And so did the King Center, where there was a lynching exhibit that was jarring. I tell you, jarring. And then you go to Ebenezer, right? You sit in Ebenezer, and in Ebenezer, they run a loop of some speeches. And so we sitting in there, they run the loop of speeches. They get to that last part of I have a dream, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. And then once that is done, all the white people get up and leave. They heard they jam, and they was gone. That was, and I really don't even understand like why they even felt like they needed to do that. It's not like King himself came in and said it. It's a tape. Like they heard they saw, and then they left the club.
They were out. They were like, we just wanted our number one hit and then we're good. I find sometimes when I go to these like African American museums, when there are white people there, they're either that where you can sort of tell they were dragged there, or they're so much more affected by it than we are. We were just in Tulsa over the summer. So we went to the, to the Tulsa Riot Museum, which you can imagine is pretty heavy. But my child is there and we're trying to talk to Eva, who's 6 now, about like, what all of these things mean and why they did this. But I'm just watching as we're sort of in a very matter of fact way, because this is our history, that we know it well. I'm like trying to just like explain to her, And I'm just watching the white people that are in the museum and they're like crying, you know, and they're just like so devastated and they're so much more affected or impacted. And I was like, this is really the first time you had heard of the Tulsa race riots. Like, wow, like you're literally experiencing this for the first time. And it is horrific and horrible, but also, yeah, damn, wow. I mean, we're all just looking like shit. Eva's looking like, should I be crying? I'm like, no, girl, because this is our reality. But yeah, so I find it's like one or the other. They're either greatly impacted by it or they're just sort of like, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, I'm an ally, we're good.
They thought we was making that stuff up. Like you ever had a partner that you thought was lying all the time, and then suddenly one of those stories checks out?
Yeah.
And now from then on, you have to entertain whatever jibber jabber he might break out because you just thought that he was out here making this up. Now, that's not to say that we be out here lying all the time. That is to say, a lot of them be thinking that we be out here lying all the time. And some of them are those people. And then they showed up and then they realized, actually, we haven't been telling you nearly as much truth as you would have thought. Your whole world is rocked there from then on.
But wait, it gets worse. It's like, oh, this is worse than you even said. It's like, yeah, no, and you're confronted with it.
Yeah, nah. Shout out to you though. Like, were you already in Tulsa, or did you go specifically for that purpose?
We went specifically to Tulsa. My husband does a family reunion in a different city every single year. And we specifically chose Tulsa so that we could A, contribute to the economy, and B, so that we could go and learn, you know, more and show our kids about the Tulsa race riot. So there's not a whole ton of more reason to go to Tulsa, which I discovered when we were there. I was like, oh, there's nothing here. The downtown was completely empty. It sort of looked like The Walking Dead a little bit. But again, I think that's why it's important to go. Everyone, when they found out we were going to Tulsa, their first question was, why? And yeah, it was for those two specific reasons. And also, you know, there's not really there's not any pretty girls to steal your eye away. So you can really focus on your family, which is what we did. There was nothing keeping us from just sitting together in that courtyard Marriott ballroom and hanging out as a family.
Yeah, I was about to say, I can't, like the bougie comes out for me on these sorts of endeavors, family things, funerals, and the likes, because our family is centered around a small town in Louisiana. Like, that's where our stuff is, and man, those accommodations, whether it be the connecting flight or it be the hotel that I wound up staying in, gotta say, it's not what your boy is growing accustomed to, and it's not anything anybody cares about, right? Like, this is not this should not be the concern of what it is, but it sounds like y'all do a lot of connecting flights for these family reunions that y'all got going, and I might have to find me a new family if this is what it's gonna be. Like in my head, I'm like, wow, doesn't everybody like Atlanta? It's got this great big airport that we could oh, well, that's right. A lot of people are just going to be driving. Oh, that's right. Ain't that something?
Yeah, that's right. There is this like there is this time in your life where you have to just embrace that, like, you've outgrown things and you want to feel better than that. I'm very lucky that, like, for work, which is 90% of my travel, I have a first class travel profile. So I'm able to fly, you know, first class, and I have nice accommodations and those kinds of things. So when I have to go do it on my own, and yes, when the whole group wants to stay at the DoubleTree, no offense, I'm like, and I had to book a flight very last minute a few weeks ago to go out to my aunt's funeral out in Denver. And by the time I was able to book it, the only seat on the plane that was available was the last row by the bathroom in the middle. And when I tell you, like, I almost broke out into tears multiple times. And I was like, I know that I'm soft. I recognize that. But this is hell. This is hell. And I understand 90% of America travels this way. And like, it's just lucky to be able to afford a plane ticket last minute. It was a nightmare. And I'm okay. I'm soft. But I've embraced the fact that, like, I feel like it's okay sometimes to say you're too good for this.
No, I'm okay. Everybody. The thing is, everybody's too good for it. That's the point I try to make before they try to make it like I think I'm too good. Like, no, I think you're too good too. Circumstances just put you in a situation where you don't really have the same options. What you do wind up though in these things is like airports, unlike those you're familiar with. So I went to my uncle's funeral and last summer, and we flew in and out of Alexandria, Louisiana. And the woman that was checking the IDs was also the woman reading the X-ray machine. So she would check a run of IDs, and then like you put your bags down, and then she would sit back down and she would watch and do the X-ray check on all the stuff. And so somebody pulled up late. It's only like two or three like four flights a day that run through the airport. There's a military base nearby, so they got they need an airport. And somebody was a little stressed out about whether or not you was gonna make the flight, and then like, nah, baby, you fine. Everybody in this line is all on the same flight. Like this is
We're
all we're
good.
doing, and these are things you just don't think about necessarily when you're out here hopping between these hubs. And so it's like,
Yep.
oh man, this
Yeah.
is, and so part of what makes it interesting is my parents, but I grew up fairly well to do, but my mother's unwavering dedication to saving money has not interfered. Like she never got off it, is what I'm saying. So like just let mama book the hotel. Nah, not no more. Not anymore. Cause she'll
No.
have me and my spine in places that we can't handle. That we just can't do.
Correct. If I feel the need to wear shower shoes in the shower, I can't stay at that hotel. I'm sorry. And like the only hotels in the world that are nice and $125 a night are in like Thailand. It's just like no, it's a no for me. And the thing is that it's not just it's about the clientele that is also staying in Bo, Iowa in $100 a night hotel. It's about the people that are staying there too. That's scary for me, right? Like it's not just what's affordable to you. It's about the rest of the clientele that's also staying there.
Yeah, we're alienating our audience. How about
I
those
was gonna say
Broncos? Are
we
you
are
believing in
not
Bo
relatable
Nix?
at all. This is
Oh
the
no no
least
no no no
relatable
no
we could do.
no no no. We are relatable to a lot of the people that are here, right? We truly are, and at the very least, we are relatable to y'all's Instagram accounts. Your guys' Instagram accounts indicate that you live the exact same life as these two television professionals do. So forgive me
Correct.
if I have misunderstood like where y'all actually are in life. Y'all should probably stop lying. Not all of you, of course, but some of you perhaps should consider ceasing telling the lies. But no, this is what happens to everybody, right? No matter who you are. And again, this don't hit everybody the same. But what happens is I would think about hotels I thought I'd be good with forever, and then suddenly I'm not good with. You want a hotel that's nicer than your own house. For the price that you
Yes.
pay for a hotel relative to what your rent is, you want a hotel that's nicer than your house. So as your house gets nicer, your need for hotel gets nicer, and everybody goes through that, and everybody has that moment where they're like, yo, so the Red Roof Inn, while I associate it with childhood road trips, is not going to do it anymore.
Thank you. That is literally what I say. Is it like, can it just be at least as nice as the house? And like, I don't have some crazy ornate house, but it's clean, it's comfortable beds. Like that, it feels safe. I don't have to worry about bed bugs. There's access to food. Like those kinds of things are just non negotiables for me, especially when you're traveling. You want to be comfortable.
Yeah, every now and then I do an event, and they'll be like, yeah, it's at this hotel. We booked you a room too. It's like, hey, cool. That was nice. Yeah, yeah. I'll
Appreciate
stay
you.
there. Yeah,
He Googled,
yeah. This
what is the
is
most expensive room at the La Quinta?
right, right. Then you get you walk in there and you're like, wow, who's older, me or the carpet?
And that's a problem
You
too. Oh,
know?
hotels with carpet. No thanks.
Yeah, no, it's a tough go. But are you buying this Bo Nix thing? Are you in on this?
Like, God, you talk about the narcotic. Like, I have listened to my parents, born and bred Denver. We've had season tickets in our family for 60 years. We are that family. And I have watched our prospects since Peyton Manning retired be Paxton Lynch and Trevor Simeon and, Russell Wilson. And I just think that they are so desperate for hope. Like, I think that's the thing. You talk about the Falcons narcotic. Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins, but what he is offering them is the thing that they haven't had in years, which is just like hope. Hope that you could win a game, hope that you could be contending in November, like just a glimmer of hope. I haven't seen it at all from Bo Nix until Sunday. And I thought him yelling at Sean Payton, like I was so tired of hearing that Bo Nix is the most experienced quarterback of all time with all the games that he played in college. I just think of Bo Nix as the guy that couldn't cut it in the SEC and scurried away from Auburn to head west, right? And so I hadn't seen it. And like, I'm tired of hearing Sean Payton has the most intricate, playbook of all time. And he's this genius and it's just going to take time for Bo to understand it and whatnot. I feel like my parents have been on the Bo Nix train since the preseason and I just was not there. I think this is yet another year that you've got a Broncos defense that's overperforming just to keep their offense in the game. And I hadn't seen that through the first 4 weeks of the season until Sunday. And like, again, it's the fucking Raiders. I'm not crazy. I understand that it is the Raiders. But at the very least, seeing him have the balls that Russell Wilson never had there to yell at Sean Payton and basically tell him to F off, like that to me was when I was like, that's my quarterback, because it meant something, like he's thrown some ducks out there, but like he also has the ability to spin it a little bit. So I don't know if I'm buying it yet, but at the very least, it's a more promising prospect than what we've had over the last like 8 years.
I gotta be honest. Something dawned on me while you was talking. It's a bit of a tangential point, but I forgot that something that very few of us actually know in our real lives. An actual real live Vanderbilt fan.
I'm married to
you
one.
live with one. Yes, you
I
were
am
actually
married
married to a Vanderbilt fan. You were also a Georgia fan, which is to say, week 4 last wasn't really for you. You know what I'm saying? Alabama did a little something to you, and then you and your man got to get together and join. And why you look at me like that? But you and your man got to join together in wishing misery on Alabama. Good for y'all. Good for y'all.
100% danced on their grave. And I understand people think that it makes my team look worse because Vanderbilt beat them and we could not beat them. But I look at it as the high of feeling like you just accomplished this feat. You just were involved in one of the greatest SEC games of all time, or whatever all of the talking heads are saying. To have that much joy and to instantly have it stopped. But like, you cannot lose to Vanderbilt. And I don't care if it's a Vanderbilt team that beat Virginia Tech in the beginning of the year, or, like went toe to toe with some other Missouri, took them to double overtime. They lost to Georgia State, Bomani Jones. Vanderbilt lost to Georgia State. Like, that's not a thing that you do in football if you are a serious football program. And they did, and then they beat Alabama. And I think it is hilarious because we, at the time, lost to the number 6 team in the country. You lost to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, and not in baseball. It was incredible, and it also made my husband like life. And so it was a true joy. It really was.
That man really be rooting for Vanderbilt. Like
He really roots for
he invests
Vanderbilt.
energy in it.
I mean, not really, but he's that guy that like you'll be watching a baseball game or a football game in the pros, and like someone will make a catch and he'll just go Doors, go. He knows all of their alum. Like any Commodore that exists in the world, he knows them. And so no, he has invested zero. I think he went to 2 football games when he was there because Jay Cutler was their quarterback. And as he put it, I showed up to one game, Jay Cutler started throwing ducks, and then I left. He would go to Tennessee State games more than he would go to Vanderbilt games, and you can imagine why. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But this was great for them because, like, if for no other reason, this is a team, Bo, that had James Franklin as the greatest the greatest coach of all time because he took them to like a bowl game. Like, that's how low the bar is. And now they have become this team that did the impossible and beat Alabama. And so, like, this is all he needs, like, maybe forever. Maybe they don't ever have to win another game again, and he's still good.
Meanwhile, we got Georgia. And I have to say this for Georgia. I appreciate this. It's been a long time since we've had a program that does all that winning, and they can't stop their players from going to jail. And that's y'all. Like, I'm not even saying that in pearl clutching. It's just a part of the archetype that's missing. It's if y'all's cats stay going to jail for, like, not even fun stuff, just driving too fast all the time.
Someone tweeted at me the other day, how does it feel to support this generation's Florida team under Urban Meyer? And I'm like, hold on a minute. They had serial killers on that team. Okay. Like,
Yes.
like actual serial killers. So we're still not there yet. But it's incredibly frustrating because I really do respect Kirby as a coach. Obviously, I respect the program, and the program has been doing a ton of winning. And so it's one of those things where you sort of have to hold your nose and go, man, they're doing so much winning, but at what cost? It's absurd to me. It is absurd to me. Before, what happened with Devin Willock, it was absurd to me because it's like, how come this one specific thing, you guys all just keep driving recklessly? And I know, Atlanta, that's symptomatic of Atlanta in general, right? Like street racing is a huge problem in Atlanta. It really, really is. It's very cultural at this point. It's like ingrained in the culture. And unfortunately, it's making its way and has become pervasive enough that it's made its way to Athens. But what's absurd to me is after you lost a teammate to this, they're still doing it. How you have not thought up some program that's not even an Uber where you can supply these guys, that you can tap into your coffers and supply these guys with drivers, or I just don't understand how this one particular thing can't be curbed. I think they've had, since Devin Willock died, they've had like 11 or 12 different infractions involving driving. It's just nonsensical to me. And like, I don't know what the solution is, but obviously whatever they're doing now is just not working. I just don't, it's befuddling, Bomani, and really frustrating.
Me as a middle-aged man, the only thing that I really look back on in my college age or adolescence, early adulthood, where I'm like, yo, man, you really could have died, is the way that I used to drive cars. Right? Like
Yeah.
it is if I look back and people talk about like when you're young, you feel like you're invincible and all of that stuff. That's the place where I'd be like, yeah, you were right. And I think about things that I've been in or like dumb, like speeds I've driven in, places I've driven them in. Yo, no, like that's the one for real. Where if I had kids, I can only imagine how terrifying it is to let them drive a car because you know how stupid we are when we drive cars
Yes.
at those ages. But I would think like you did, y'all lost one, man. That would be this is dead ass serious thing, and it doesn't seem to be at all. And that, like, I don't understand why it's that. I think you and I are aligned in the confusion. Like, this is the thing you can't get over doing.
This particular thing, because this isn't like, oh, well, you've got one person doing this or one person doing that. It's all surrounding reckless driving, drunk driving. And again, it's a wake up call. I mean, I was the same way, fast and loose with my car. And then I lost a friend in high school in a car. I lost two friends in the same car accident. And it was a huge wake up call for me, right? Like, this is not a game. This is deadly. You can hurt someone. You can hurt yourself, like getting away with a ticket or going to jail for a night is the least of your worries in terms of impact that driving this way can have. And you have a shining example of it from just a couple of years ago. And it has not deterred them at all. And I don't know, like, if it's a cultural thing or what.
In a municipality that has never been shy about locking y'all up. Like Steve Spurrier, you had the line where you said, talk about how you love playing Georgia early in the year because they always had somebody suspended because Athens Clark stays throwing them in jail. That is not the place where they're getting away with very much. They may be getting away with something, but it ain't that much. Athens Clark been throwing them in jail for all of those things.
I remember a few years ago, like a Georgia player, I think got arrested for like drunk driving on a bicycle. I was like, oh, y'all really ain't like cutting nobody no slack on a bike, right? Like, you're right. They are not here for your games. They don't care if you're a football player and you still stay, walking and tempting that line. I don't know if it's because none of them have been big enough players to impact the winning. I'm not really sure like what it is, but it's just, it's really frustrating because you want to be able to just like sort of support your team and in a vacuum be like, hey, I understand I'm not naive. They're not filled with Boy Scouts. No team is. But just this particular thing that just does not seem to be resonating with this team is just wildly frustrating.
All right, we're going to come back with more with Elle Duncan in just a second on The Right Time.
But keep winning championships.
The NFL is back, which means you can turn $10 into $1,000 in a single game watching your favorite teams only on Prize Picks. You can make a Prize Picks lineup in as little as 60 seconds. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. But rather than hearing it from me, let's talk to somebody who uses Prize Picks. Sean, how the picks been going for you?
Bo, I'm excited the NFL is back because Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions and discounts discounts on select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. And as always, make sure you stick around for the end of the show to hear my NFL picks for the week.
There we go. So make sure you go to prizepicks.com/Bomani and use code Bomani for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/Bomani. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sean, although October is the season for wearing masks and costumes, some of us feel like we wear a mask at work, social settings, or even around our family. Have you ever felt like you couldn't be your full self, like you were hiding behind a mask?
Bo, for me, I try to be myself in all settings and with everyone I encounter, but, it's certainly easy to get caught up in portraying yourself in a specific way or putting on a mask, whether it's, to impress someone at work or make a good first impression. But I feel like it's always best to show the real you first.
That's right. And therapy can help you accept all parts of yourself so you can take off the mask. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/Bomani today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Bomani. All right, Elle Duncan, you covered women's basketball on the college level, on the professional level, and for many years, you guys said you wanted some more attention. Well, how you like it now? How you like it? Are you happy? Are you glad we showed up? Have you enjoyed the ride this year? We're in the WNBA finals that have the bad timing of being right like during baseball playoffs and the NFL season, right? It's a tough go for them in that way. But we're here. We're here. We're here. Aren't you happy?
This is like finally having like a home and a backyard big enough to entertain more people, and then the new people that show up to the party show up with pitchforks, and you're like, ooh, never mind, this was bad. I should have curated this list a little better. Yeah, I have said repeatedly that this is the worst timeline right now. Because if you even talk about basketball in a critical way, and I can understand, like, if you've got the one side where, like, if you talk critically about a basketball player, you get sort of, don't pile on, like, these women are already facing so much hate and vitriol, don't like add to that by talking critically about their basketball, which is kind of like our job. And then, of course, conversely, the second that you show love to anybody not named Caitlin Clark, you are part of, some constituency that's trying to keep her contributions at a minimum, and you're racist, and we get a lot of that. It's no wonder that the W coverage is all Black women, because you're all in it together to try to keep her down. It's just, you're kind of damned if you do and you're damned if you don't at this point in the W, which has been really frustrating because the competition's never been better. The storylines have never been more plentiful. I am a firm believer, though, Bo, that like the bad faith characters that were sort of like, I'm only here for Caitlyn, I'm only here. So much of that nasty rhetoric has toned down since the fever got bounced from the postseason. And I don't think it's because necessarily people aren't watching. Like, we're still setting huge ratings increases, record ratings, despite it not being any fever games involved. Obviously, her games saw exponentially more growth and more viewership, but we're still over-indexing anything that we had done in previous years. So I've seen a lot of that calm down, and it's kind of become what it could be, which is, the discourse being around basketball and reminding people about the great legacy of the Lynx or some of these amazing stories. But yeah, it is a bit of a be careful what you wish for, right? Like, you want for the W to sort of be a part of the hot take economy, because that means that people are talking about it. There's bad takes in every sport, right? And so, like, when you're talking about equality, I suppose that's what it means, right? Like, if you want for the platform to grow. But to me, the frustrating part has been, instead of hot takes that are like, Breanna Stewart's never going to win another championship, or, Nafisa Collier's better than Maya Moore. Like, instead of those kinds of hot takes, the hot takes solely and explicitly surround all of these Black women versus Caitlin Clark. And like, that's what's frustrating to me, is that the people that have the platforms think that they're doing the W a service simply by just talking about it, as opposed to understanding that if you don't have the bandwidth to talk about it, please stop globbing onto that one narrative, which is they need to show her more adoration, adulation, and love. And I understand that I'm coming from a place of being a Black woman who has my whole life had other people try to validate any successes that I've had. And like, that is probably why it pisses me off more than anything, because I understand that Black women are always overlooked, and no matter what they end up doing, they had to work twice as hard for half as less. And then to have someone come in who has been amazing for the game, for the sport, of her own volition, worked really hard in Caitlin Clark, but to have this group of people come in and immediately invalidate the contributions of all of these women before her simply because they don't know, that's what's been frustrating, you know? So yes, people are going to talk about it more, but oh my God, please just educate yourself so that you can have bad takes that involve basketball and not bad takes that send racism and misogyny into the timelines of these women. It's unfair.
So the timeline part that you mentioned, I think, is a very important thing, because I think everybody, this is across the board, it doesn't really seem to me, doesn't matter what side of whatever argument you're on as it relates to this, boy, everybody's way too online, man. And like,
Yeah.
when I see the discussions that people are having, it reeks of, you guys are way too online. But you know where I see these discussions? When I'm online, right? So like, I don't even know if I'm in a position to be judgmental of it in that way, but it still feels like everybody involved in this is way too online. And I think that people, when you talk about people being too online, I think they think about the things they consume really skewing heavily in one direction, kind of more of a left direction, if we'll say this. No, them crazy white folks online the same exact ways, right? So like the people that you see and saying these wild things in defense of Caitlin Clark, assuming they're actually people, because I can't tell who is and he is not a person when it comes to an online discussion. But it feels like a lot of these women who are younger women who grew up native to these spaces are being flooded with it in large part because they're so online, because that's what life is for people at this point. And so it's easy. And a lot of times I look at it like, okay, this harassment that you're describing could easily be turned off by turning off the phone. But that's where life is for people at this point. It's not that simple to just tell them to turn it off, because that's where they do things. But at the same time, it is not an unreasonable solution that a lot of people can come up with on this one. But I have been shocked by how toxic it has been to see in public and in private the ways that people have talked about this. And then the whole Christine Brennan thing got to be so weird and over the top, because Caitlin Clark is the person a lot of people have been waiting their whole lives for. They didn't even know it, but apparently they've been waiting their entire whole lives for. And she seems to be handling it way better than anybody else involved in this whole thing has handled it. But I look at it and I wonder who's having fun this year. Like, who is
Nobody.
observing this and who has been around the league and is actually enjoying what should have been something that should have been great for all parties. Well, not all parties, because she's a competitor, right? They're competing against each other. But in a macro sense, I feel like it should have been better for everybody.
She's not enjoying it either. And the thing is that has been so frustrating. I said this on my show like months ago. I'm like, you all think that you are making Caitlin Clark some like avatar for you to like, you know, be nasty and to attack women. Caitlin Clark admires these women that you're attacking. She grew up admiring them and wanting to be like them. She was inspired by them. For you to then turn it and make them the villains and her the, you know, the victim in this has been asinine. And she, you know, she said it even at her post-game press conference when the season was over, after they got bounced out of the postseason. She said that as well. Like, I know this league. I knew how physical it was because I'm a fan of this league. I'm a fan of these women. She grew up idolizing Maya Moore. Like, she grew up watching this league. She knew more about the league than you did. You came in and didn't understand any of those things. You didn't know that it was physical. You didn't know that women compete. That yes, there are enforcers that are women in the same way that there are enforcers that are men, and that there are petty women just like there are petty men. Like this is a thing. This is the dynamic of sports in general, and that there is a rookie culture where the veterans want to put you in your place. The thing for me, Bo, that because I always say this as it pertains to myself, like it is impossible for me at my big old age of 41 to be bullied online because all I have to do is put my fucking phone down, right? Like it's hard when you're in high school, you're in middle school, you go face these people who are harassing you online. That is not the case when you're a grown up. But what I'll say is I'm new in the W too. I've been doing college basketball for 4 years, but this is my first year in the W. And everybody talks about what social media looked like previously in the W, and it was a community. And it was a lot like NBA Twitter, which is to me one of the most culturally relevant spaces in social media, right? Like NBA Twitter is fun. And imagine if next year Cooper Flag comes in to the NBA and all of a sudden NBA Twitter is permeated with all these big black goons are trying to attack some sweet innocent white kid, and how frustrating that would be for the players too. You know, the women of the W react and engage on social media because that's how they reach out to their fans, because that's how they build their brands. That's how they build brand recognition, is by engagement, is by being online and being a presence online. But if you tweet an innocuous picture of you goofing around at, practice or at shoot around, and it becomes 300 messages of, you're a coon and, you need to worship the ground Caitlin walked on, of course you're going to be frustrated. And it's not fair because they have existed in this world for a long time that obviously, like social media, can have vitriol and can have some nonsense and some chicanery, but it's become all of that now to the point where they have completely disengaged. And we're watching women, get rid of their social medias because they just can't take it anymore. And that is the frustrating part, is that they have ruined every safe space. And then you've got people like Christine Brennan, people who I think were former proud journalists who have just devolved into fangirls. And she can sort of say whatever she wants about like, well, I'm writing a book on Caitlin and like I'm asking the tough questions and this and that. But to watch the fangirling, like we love sports. I definitely have athletes that I'm fans of, but like for that to impact how I approach my comments on a game or how I dissect a game or my analysis of a game is just weird to me. And we're watching it happen with all of these journos who aren't journalists anymore. They're fangirls. They're like, it's like weird to me. It's just bizarre. And I know that Caitlin is a once in a generation type of talent because I've been watching her for years since she's been in college. I didn't just get introduced to Caitlin Clark like some of these fans did. And to think that she is some innocent, poor innocent girl getting picked on. She's a tough woman. Okay, she can dish it too. She mixed it up with DeWanna Bonner. She's no pussycat. She got better and better and better and became the best scorer that we've ever seen in college because people tested her. She was tested. She wasn't targeted. Holly Rowe dropped a bar on my show saying that. And it's just, in general, been incredibly frustrating. So it's not so easy for the people that say things like, well, if you don't like what they're saying on social media, just get off social media. That was a safe space for them for many, many years. And it very quickly did not become that way.
Now, I will say, I do think they'll all be much happier with their lives being off the social media. I think I'd be happier with my life being off the social media. It will be interesting to check if, like, in the end, they're like, you know what, I kind of am better off not kicking it like that. But I think, though, that ties to something that's important, though, is that I think it's very easy to think about because women are celebrities. And so, that comes with the territory stuff that people who, by the way, have never been on said territory typically offer. But I understand the argument, except the difference here is they don't make no money. Right. So if we were talking about somebody that's making $5-10 million a year and this is part of the trade, then I think we view this a little bit differently. You out here doing this for 75 G's. No. Right. I see it kind of in that way where it's like, OK, yeah, this. I should not have to retreat from this portion of my life for things that really only have but like so much to do with me. Right. The Christine Brennan thing. I thought that statement that the WNBPA released, I did not think that was good. Like the tone of it, the whole you're not fooling anybody and all of this stuff. I was like, yo, nobody read over this? Like there was nobody to tell you. Like I had never seen anything that was so pointed and so personal toward one person. And that's before I looked at the words themselves and was like, nah, I didn't think that this was cool. Then I forget who it was that wrote it. I think it's the woman that wrote the piece for Anscape, but she did her own kind of a audit of sorts of what Christine Brennan had written about the WNBA this year. And I was floored. I couldn't believe it. Like, I was reading through the stuff that she was writing. I was like, yo, whoa, I see why they're a little bit frustrated and tired of dealing with you and your stuff. If this is what you're doing every single time and every question that you ask somebody is in furtherance of, I want to be careful about saying an agenda because I don't know what it is that Brennan intends to do. But definitely feels like hagiography, right? It definitely feels like her game is creating the hero of Caitlin Clark. And for me, that's not even that interesting a part of the story. Like, one thing I find interesting, having watched from this distance that I'm at, and I think is something that's easy to lose sight of with Clark. So she's from Des Moines, Iowa, and went to like the Catholic school that's in Des Moines. She went to the University of Iowa, and as far as I could tell, everybody on that team had at least one white parent. Even the black girl's name was Hannah, right? Now you come to the WNBA, you're in a new world, right? Like, anybody who knows me knows I am fascinated by the cultural exchange that comes from basketball. What is interesting to me is that this is the first time Caitlin Clark has left home, and she didn't just leave home. She left home under this gigantic microscope and all that comes with that, but also being a, for lack of a better term, minority for the first time in your life, in a culture of basketball that you're familiar with, but in a way that's different on your own micro level. I would love somebody as talented and as, Christine Brennan ain't nobody in this game, right? Like, she is a Hall of Famer in the eyes of most people. I would love to see somebody like that look at those things about Caitlin Clark. But people seem just so excited about her very existence that this whole thing, somehow she has been too good for our own good. Forget about her own good, for our own good. Because look, I do think we could have been more honest in the beginning. It was some hateration and holleration in the dancery because that's how sports works, right? There's hateration for Shedeur Sanders at Colorado. It's going to be there, but we was doing a lot of lying and acting like it wasn't there. No. They was hating. They was knocking it down for no reason. There was all of that stuff. It's just the game. The problem was people jumping in and acting like this was so particular to her and needing to put on their capes and come in and save her when the real story was, she going to jump up every time. And now, by the time they came back from the Olympics, she was so cold that none of this other equivocating that people were trying to do applied anymore. Nobody could do it. But then we just spent the year being mad. Like, it just felt like every discussion that reached a place that I get to it because I'm not an in the weeds fan of this. It just seemed like everything was about somebody being mad and like how far we got to go before it becomes a discussion of the basketball.
Exactly. And that was the problem for me, Bo, was I think the generalization is what was bothersome. It was this generalization that there's just this big gang of bullies that are just like licking their chops to hurt Caitlin Clark. Like, that's ridiculous. Nobody looked at anything situationally. Nobody said like, okay, well, let me find out a little bit more about Kennedy Carter and see if she, tends to make decisions like this, which we've seen her have some questionable decision making in the past. She had a great turnaround year in Chicago, but like, nobody looked at any of those. They kept using every example as see, we told you. And on top of that, even when that rhetoric died down, the other thing I was uncomfortable with, Bo, is that instead of celebrating Caitlin Clark, every accomplishment she made on the basketball court immediately was weaponized to attack other women. It was like, oh, Caitlin Clark became the first rookie to ever have a triple-double. See, you bitches, you'd be nothing without her. She's better. It was like, oh my God, why can't you just celebrate her accomplishments on their own? Every single thing she did became a weapon and someone became a target of it. And it was just weird to me because if you love Caitlin Clark and you appreciate her game, like so many of these women do, then that's what we should be celebrating. The idea that as much as you thought she was being attacked and bullied and all of that, look how quickly she turned around. We all knew Caitlin Clark was going to be fine in the WNBA, by the way. I don't even think we all thought it would be this quickly, that she would be this impactful right away, that she would take a fever team back to the postseason for the first time since she was 14 years old. Like, I'm not sure anybody thought that would happen or saw the post-Olympic break happening, but we all believed that she would be just fine. Even the people in the beginning that were hating, the fans that were saying when she was struggling or turning the ball over, see, she's not that good. They were wrong. Just like the people that were saying that the W should have stacked the decks more in her favor because she was, the only reason people are watching TV. Both of them were wrong. And I think that's a problem, is that there's like a lot of wrong people on both sides in terms of overestimating, underestimating, and not accurately depicting what her impact is. And I love what you said about the idea that she joined a locker room composed of and comprised of people that she had never really played with before. Whenever there was a lot of criticism to Caitlin for how she was sort of handling this and whether she was speaking out enough or using her platform enough, someone came to me and told me something that I thought about, that also was a legacy basketball player that grew up in an all-white environment and then was sort of thrust into a not white environment as their basketball career progressed. And she said, she will get there with time. She has never been around these type of women. She's never been around, Black women or women from different parts of the country. Like, she's sort of existed in this bubble of women that were raised with similar backgrounds, Black, white, or other. They had similar backgrounds and socioeconomic backgrounds. And she'll get better with understanding and talking about race the more that she is exposed to people of different backgrounds. But right now, anything that she's saying is going to sound a bit performative because she doesn't actually know. Give her time. She'll be more comfortable talking about race and things like that. But you also have to understand, too, the weight of on her shoulders as well. She's the golden goose. She's got, Peyton Manning's agents. Like, she's got so many endorsements online. She's got millions and millions of dollars at play. And I think that Caitlin also doesn't want to say the wrong thing. And I'm not sure that it's one of those, Michael Jordan Republicans buy sneakers too. I don't even think it's at that level. I think it's that she doesn't want to say the wrong thing in general. She's 22 years old. Like, she is young, and she's got the weight of all of this on her. And so I think giving her some grace on how she handled the situation as well is called for.
You talk about sounding performative. Ask me who else sounds performative. The people on her back. Like, on these matters, there's such a matter of performance. Like, the idea that it is her responsibility this is somewhat generational too, right? We're talking about a lot of women, college educated, in their 20s and early 30s. There's a language that is spoken around these sorts of matters, and an expectation that people are supposed to stand before the world and prostrate themselves very often of their privilege. Hey man, real life, that ain't really how this goes. Like, this isn't right. This isn't really how it is. She gonna have to pick up some stuff along the way. She probably will. But this idea that it's her responsibility to tell these people to stop. I mean, maybe. Like, I understand where you're coming from. They're not gonna stop because she say so. Like, I think there's a misunderstanding about this. Like, Caitlin Clark is not. They're not doing that because they think she wants them to. They're not doing that looking for her approval. They're doing that because that's what they do. But so it just, I don't know. It went in a million directions this year, and maybe we'll get to the place where it goes to the basketball itself, right? Because I can't think anybody has been.
Let me tell you why I don't see it, though. Because the person that they keep comparing her to is Paige Beckers, who has spoke out about white privilege, right? Who has recognized. But again, Paige's background is different. Paige's stepmama is a Black woman, right? Like, Paige's background is different. And so I think that next year, what I'm worried about is that it will become, when Paige comes to the league, it will become more of a comparison. Why can't you be like her? And they'll other themselves again, right? Like, why can't you speak out on this like she does? And why aren't you more like this? And I worry that instead of just embracing Paige, who's going to be dynamic in the league, and who, by the way, was the original Caitlin Clark in terms of hype, in terms of promise, right? Some injuries derailed her a bit, and then Caitlin, completely took off. But I'm worried that it's now going to become an othered situation where it's like, you need to be more like Paige Beckers, which is also unfair.
They jump at all Caitlin Clark like she O.J. Simpson. Like, what you ain't gonna say? What you gonna do for the people? She like, what people? Oh shit, you mean y'all? We're not even talking about us. He talking about y'all? What just happened here? Like, can you imagine the phone call she has with her mom? Like, I don't know what they want me to do.
Yeah. What do they want from me, Mom? What
Like,
else?
there's nobody in, like, who is in her life to be able to give her the explanation. That's where that locker room got to come in handy, because I don't think there's anybody else on Team Caitlyn that can tell her anything other than they're just jealous of you, which is not helpful advice, even though there is some kernel of truth, but that's not the kernel of truth that's going to help you make something out of this. Another part, though, that I think is worth noting about this is the algorithm. And I talked about this in the context of being very online, but like, I think about it on my end, like the For You page on Twitter.
Oh my
Everybody that the
God.
For You page sends me that talks about the WNBA is infuriating. No
Yes.
matter what side of the
Same.
game they're on, they're all infuriating, right? The
Same.
people who I say are not sports fans, but actually here for advocacy, really, really annoying. I get a lot of them. And then just random accounts that are boosting Caitlin Clark to dog out everybody else. I get those because the algorithms know that the things that make you mad are the things that engage you. You know, like that's
It's
the
true.
game that we wind up with. That's what we have. And that, again, I think greatly contributes to what we're talking about here, because so much of this discussion is an online discussion, not an in-person
Sure.
discussion.
Sure. And I also think, to your point, the algorithm tells you on my show alone, right? I'm complicit. On my show alone, the algorithm tells you that if you have a show and it's tiled on the YouTube page with Caitlin Clark, it's going to do better numbers. So people just want to talk about Caitlin Clark. And again, because they don't necessarily have the bandwidth to talk about Caitlin, it just becomes more of a culture war, more of a feeding into the algorithm. I mean, the For You, sometimes I forget and I'll be like, why does my timeline look like this? And I have to look, and then I have to go to the following tab and not the For You tab, because my For You tab is just things that piss me off. And it's the exact kind of people who are in my mentions talking and making my life hell. And I'm like, why on earth would you think this is for me? I hate these people. I don't want these
Because
people.
because the whole
And
reason people
yeah,
go online these days is to be mad. That's why they think it's
yes,
for you, because what people want on there is stuff to be mad about.
you're right. And I've fallen victim to it. You know, I like went on a tear a couple weeks ago. Some lady basically was like, you know, you like Angel Reese had said something about, you know, her season and like how bad how tough it had been, and like, you know, a lot of the things that she had been facing. And someone like added me and was like, see what you've done, like you've hurt her, like you've attacked her. I'm like, Angel, what? I literally make an argument almost every single, and this is me rage tweeting. I make an argument every week that like runaway MVP or rookie of the year, that's not the thing. And like, I always defend Angel. What are you talking about? And then, and it's just, and this is what it's feeding into, is just this sort of passionate response, even if it's just one that's based in anger. And it's like, that's sort of where we're at with the W at this point, is it doesn't matter what you've done, what you said. People don't check receipts. People don't look for anything other than the clickbait. And then they react to that. And then it becomes this big thing. And then it devolves into madness.
You still cool with me though. You know what I'm saying?
Love you, Bo. That's all I
I
care about.
appreciate it, Elle Duncan. Elle Duncan, check out on Sports Center and the Elle Duncan Show, available with all fine podcasts, given away for free. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, Bo.
All right, all good. Sean, you got prize picks for the people?
I sure do, Bo. Thursday night football. Let's go Zach Charbonnet. 14 and a half rush yards. I'll take more there. Debo Samuel, 0.5 rush reception touchdowns. I'll take more there as well. And then Tyler Lockett, 4 receptions, taking more. God bless you, Bo. And Jawan Jennings, 2.5 receptions. I'm taking more. As the audience knows, it's just more.
Optimismo. That's what Sean got for you. Optimism. But ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We do this 3 times a week. That is Sean, you handling everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. Remember, follow The Right Time. Also, check out our YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, rate us, review us, give us 5 stars. You only give us 4 stars, I'm inclined to believe you are a hater. And we'll talk to you guys in a couple of days. Take it easy.